And is that something that's going to be eventually taken over by the city, or still very university?
No, it's, well, let me quickly explain it to you so
Sure.
you understand it's a very exciting thing. You know, I was very excited to start this planning a couple of years ago and to start working to try to find people to help in the process and engage the neighborhood and so on. This is going to be a great benefit for the city, for Brookland, for our neighborhood, and for the university as well. As you know, as a student, and there's not a whole lot going on in the immediate area. You know, if you're not a Colonel Brooks fan and you're not on the 12th Street corridor at some of those establishments, there's not a whole lot to do. People are in the metro going across town to the places and so on. So the idea here was multiple things. Number one, to find something that would be a revenue stream for the university, because we always need money and we always need more money. So to build something into our planning that would provide that for us was the first thing. Second thing was to provide more of an environment, kind of a college town environment for our students, and to have at work in the plan some housing opportunities that would provide for graduate students, law students, young faculty with families who can't afford immediately to live in big places, to buy homes in the District of Columbia, because it's expensive to live here, just about as expensive it is to live in New York City, to live even in this region. We reached out to some firms in the Washington area. I think there's over 50 that responded to our call for proposals, a request for proposals, our RFP. And we settled on one firm that is absolutely outstanding and has a track record of success. So what's going to happen there is basically we're going to take down, by this time next year, Conity, Spelman, and Spaulding will be no more. They'll all be leveled by this time next year. We have to vacate them so we won't occupy them in the fall of next year either. So they'll be empty buildings. I did a ground lease and a sale. Part of the land area over there going toward the metro belonged to the university. We sold the property outright. Other parts we do a ground lease, long-term ground lease, so that the university could not only have the proceeds that it would get from the sale, but also that they would continue for many, many years to come. And the university would have a share in the profits.
Naturally.
It's my hope that that some of the things that are going to be across the street now, I never liked those dormitories across the street, even when I was a student. There was a student killed when I was a student here. It was a terrible tragedy. One of the seminarians from Theological College. So I always had that in my mind, you know. And I watch the students crossing there, or when I have to cross the street, it's scary sometimes.
It's disconnected.
Yeah, it doesn't belong. I want people to live on the campus to the extent possible, the undergraduates, to form that undergraduate community. But anyway, it's going to be a combination of residence, retail. The stores that are going to be there are not going to be the huge chains, but rather like DuPont Circle, smaller, independent business owners. Give them a shot. You're right there at the metro, so it's going to be attractive for business. And it's going to turn this area into kind of like a DuPont Circle type neighborhood, you know, where there's multiple things to do and places to go and food. You know, which is very important for us over in this part of town. You know, to have some diversity in our food and our diet. But it's going to be great. I think probably students have seen some of the plans either on the web or when we did the town meetings last year. Now, unfortunately, you won't see it as a student, but you'll certainly see it as an alum in a couple of years. The goal is in 3 to 5 years that this is going to really take hold. Well, that relationship is determined almost exclusively by the students. You know, we have students scattered through the neighborhood. Some years the relationship is good, some years the relationship is not so good. You know, a few years back, long before your time here, you know, it may be 8 or 9 years ago, it's a long time. There was a group of students living in the neighborhood who were filmed by somebody during one of their, I guess they called it the spring crawl. I don't know whether you ever heard that expression.
They have the fall crawl in the fall,
okay,
so whatever the spring equivalent.
Yeah, you know, the crawling, creepy crawling, and the students were doing obnoxious things. I mean, you know, you're living in someone else's neighborhood. You're a neighbor, but you're only here for a short time.
Right.
You don't do things like they were doing, name calling,
Mm.
urinating, and stuff like that, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And it upset the neighbors, rightly so. You know, they have small children and so on and so forth. And you hear this kind of, and the language, the foul language. So we addressed it, and students responded to it. We had to put some sanctions for off-campus living, which we didn't have in the past, to let the students know, listen, hey, we mean business. If you can't handle yourself, well, then we'll put structures in place to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But we appeal to the maturity of the students and hope that they'll understand, you know, it's a Catholic university, what it means to be a good neighbor. Nobody's trying to eclipse their fun as a college student.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can still have fun without destroying property and hurting people, offending people. You know, I think there's a good balance, and that's really one of the things, in addition to schoolwork, that you hope you teach as a Catholic institution. You know, how to be good neighbors and good citizens.